Good morning, everybody. Yes, here we are. It is Thursday morning, the 23rd of June. We've one more week to go until we get to July, one of the hottest months, of course, in the calendar. Speaking of calendar, I was talking to my grandson the other day. We were doing quizzes. He likes it when we do quizzes. So he's 9 years old. So I'm saying to him, okay, in the old and very, very long ago days, because this was part of the quiz, and I was going back to the Stone Age. He said, before Queen Elizabeth. I said, yes. Before Queen Elizabeth I? I said, yes. He said, He said, the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, I said, Stone Age. We're going back to the Stone Age for this quiz. He said, was it before the calendar? I'm thinking, he's 9 years old. How do they know these things? How do they know to say these things? Was it before the calendar? Yes, I think it was, my darling. And he makes me laugh. Of course, all of you out there with your beautiful, wonderful grandchildren, you'll know what a pleasure it is. And of course, all of you out there, all of you young mothers with your children, with your teenagers. Oh gosh, yes, the holiday is coming, isn't it? The holiday is coming. So I thought we'd talk a little bit today about, what we do with our children. I know a lot of parents are working through the summer. What do? Do you get nannies? Do you leave your kids to their own devices? Do you plan things for them? Do grandparents step in? What goes on when you have children who are off school? Of course, we had all of this with COVID, didn't we? And everybody panicked and everybody got worried. And look, here we are several months later, and we survived. We seem to survive, don't we, as human beings? We go through the most awful things. We think it's the end of things. I even had people saying to me, Rosemary, is COVID the end of the human race? And they were serious. And no, because we're much tougher, we're much stronger, we're much more powerful than that, aren't we? We survive. We do, as human beings, we survive. Sometimes we have scars to show for our battles, but we survive. But are we, our parents and grandparents, aunts and uncles, are we going to survive the summer months with our children who are no longer in school? And what are they doing? Have you gone on lockdown with them? What are you doing with them? We want to hear from you. What plans, if any, or what potential plans, if any, you've got for your children, your grandchildren, your whoever it is, whatever it is. I know that many teachers are also on vacation. Some of them actually in Florida. We started school vacation started about 3 weeks ago, I think. So in Florida, they've been, off. But of course, in Florida, we've got the beaches, haven't we? Although you've got to find someone to take the kids to the beach. But there are so many things that we can do in Florida because it's sunny and it's nice and all the rest of it. What are you all planning to do with your children? That includes grandchildren. If you're an aunt, if you're an uncle, are you participating? Are you helping? Are you helping the parents? What are you doing? What do we think our children want to do? My grandson is he likes reading. He's fairly academic in many of the things that he likes to do. But he also likes to go on rides in the fairgrounds, and he likes to go on the beach, and he likes to play with his planes and his trains and things like that. Oh, to be 9 years old again. All right, it's summer, everybody. It's coming up. This is what we're planning for. What are your plans for summer? Do your plans include other people, or are you one of those people who's going to look forward to summer, bury yourself away somewhere, or go off on a plane and don't talk to anyone for a few weeks? That sounds like a fun thing to do. I don't know. Anyway, first, before we begin, I'd like to say good morning to Grey Eagle, of course, who is standing to my right side. And of course, Chris, good morning to Chris, who is in another room in my house, hidden away. Are you there, Chris?
I am behind closed doors. Good morning, Rosemary.
Good morning. Behind closed doors. I came through this morning and there was this delicious cooking smell. It was delicious until I looked into the pot. Then it wasn't so delicious looking to me because I'm not allowed to eat broccoli, and it's really, really bad for me. It's really, really bad for me. Oxalates, things like that. But Chris loves broccoli. So what did you make yourself? Was it that some sort of an omelette or something like
Yes, exactly. Broccoli and cheese omelet.
Yeah, great. Ooh. Anyway, first thing in the morning. Oh, no, no, no. Anyway, it's good that we're all different, isn't it? It's really, really good that we're all different. It's really good that Chris didn't have to make some for me because she knows I wouldn't have eaten it anyway. All right, Chris, is there anybody there?
We do have people here, but they are uh, very quiet in the chat room this morning.
Oh, I wonder why that could be. I wonder why it could be. Does this mean that they're making no comments? Does this mean that they're not ready for the chat room yet? Or does this mean that I've baffled them with my blathering on this morning? Do you think I've baffled people this morning, Chris?
I think perhaps they're trying to wake up.
Are you saying that I'm so boring that I put people to sleep?
No, I'm saying because of all the different time zones, maybe people are just getting up. Then again, we have the people ahead of us. It's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They're winding down from work. So who knows?
That's so funny. All right, we need to hear from you guys. Come on, this is not a free ride. You know that. If you don't participate, I think, well, we'll just cut it short. I've got things to do. Now, what things do I have to do? Yesterday, I spent several hours. Oh, you'll be excited to know this. I spent several hours working on my book. uh, I've gotten now to the difficult bit, where you have to rearrange things and move things, and you think you're going along really, really nicely, and then you come to a whoopsie, you know. Uh, what do I do with this bit now? Where am I going to put this part of it, and so on and so forth. Now, usually when I write a book, and for those of you who've read my books, I want you to go and check on them because they there is a system through all of the books that I've written, except for Soul Signs, which is its own separate thing. But if you look at all of my books, they're all in 5 parts. They all have 5 parts: part 1, part 2, part 3, etc. They all follow the same pattern because I've found it works. And luckily for me, when I wrote my first book, well, actually, when I came to work with a publisher, I'd already written a lot of the book at that time, but I hadn't put it into any kind of order. And luckily for me, I had the most amazing editor. She was amazing. She was amazing for me anyway. And her name's Joanne Davis, and she actually helped me by saying, why don't we work this in sections? Why don't we do a part 1 and a part 2 and so on and so forth? And it worked so well for the Eel and the Rose that I've continued to use that pattern, even though Joanne has moved on, and I'm not sure if she's retired, but I don't know. But she's moved on and she's doing her own thing, and she's not working for Warner Books anymore. So even though she's moved on, that format, that pattern works so well for me. And don't we all of us have a pattern? Um, I know as an earth sign, I follow a pattern. I usually have pretty much the same thing for breakfast. I'll pretty much have the same thing for lunch. I'm a creature of habit. My dinners, of course, I vary, but we had delicious fish yesterday. We had nice cod yesterday. You can ask Chris if she liked it or not. But anyway, I liked it. It was good. It was good for me. And we all of us sort of have certain habits that we get into and certain ways of doing things. My uh, parents-in-law, I'm going back a long time for this, but my parents-in-law were so, they were such sticklers, you know, on Mondays it was I don't know, I can't remember now, but on Mondays it was chicken. On Tuesdays it was uh, lamb. On Wednesdays it was egg and chips. On Thursdays it was something else. On Friday it was fish. And she happened to be, I have to tell you, the worst cook in the world. And I lived with her for a while because with my husband because I'd been very sick. So you know, so kudos to her that she cooked at all, but food was literally inedible. I'm not lying to you all. And I remember fish, we used to sort of, it was it cooked, usually cooked in this batter, which was nasty and soggy and not cooked properly. And we'd all sort of get our forks and mash it into bits and pieces. So it looked like we'd eaten it, but we sort of then sort of push it to one side. Anyway, people are creatures of habit sometimes. Are you a creature of habit? What are the habits that you have that you just can't seem to break aside from smoking, drinking, drugs? All I don't want to know about that. But what are the ordinary everyday habits? I've just told you mine. My habit is at lunchtime. Generally speaking, I'll go for a crisp bread and something on it. I vary that bit. Um, Today I'm going to have a nice chicken curry salad on my crisp bread, but that's what I like to do. I'm a creature of habit. Chris, are you a creature of habit?
I like mixing things up, so that's my habit.
Right. Yeah, because it is a habit, isn't it? It's what we like to do. All right. Do we have any questions, any comments so far from anybody?
So Annika says it's officially summer, but here in Connecticut, it has yet to warm up. Yay, looking forward to a new book. Lorraine says I'm heading up to New York to see my sister and nephew and aunt that I haven't seen in 3 years, and that's
Oh, nice.
exciting.
Very nice.
Brian says I am supposed to be traveling to Thailand on the 10th of July, but I'm still waiting for my visa and Thailand pass to come back. Fingers crossed everything will be okay.
Oh, yes. I've never been to Thailand. Brian, why are you going? Is it a dream that you've had? Have you been before? Is there a particular reason that you're going to Thailand? I've heard it's absolutely beautiful there. You could have invited me. I would have gone with you, you know. Let us know what's going on with Thailand, shall we? Yeah,
I
Chris.
don't think you want to go at this time of the year because isn't it god awful hot?
I don't know. I'm not actually sure because I know that when I used to sort of it's like Australia, their summer is our winter and vice versa. I don't know what it's like in Thailand at this time of year, but hey, it's beautiful any time of year. I think really, really beautiful.
Michael says, "Good morning, Rosemary. I will be taking my two nieces and nephew to a water park in Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh
This
wow.
is our second annual trip."
Yay, that sounds fantastic. A water park, does this mean, I guess it means you have to get wet, right? Yes. Well, I went out. This is my water experience. I went out yesterday because I've had an irrigation system put in certain parts of the garden to make sure that it's Florida. We have to make sure that the plants get watered on a regular basis. And I went out to check to make sure that the spray was going where it was supposed to go, and got a little bit soaked in the process. That was my water experience. Of not sure that I would like particularly a water park, but I know my grandson loves water parks. He loves going there.
All right. Judith says, "Rosemary, I'm taking a course in automatic writing, just getting started. It is supposed to allow us to get into contact with our higher minds. Any thoughts on automatic writing?"
Um, yes, well, I've done automatic writing. I'm wondering how they're going to teach a course on automatic writing. That I would like to know a little bit more about that. What are you up to with it? How can they teach you? Years and years ago, they used what they call a planchette, French word meaning it's a small table that actually has a swivel on it, so that when you're writing, the when you're putting pressure on the paper and you're writing using this table, the table moves and swizzles and does that, all that sort of thing. So you sort of, there's no restrictions. So your wrist, your hand, the pen can go wherever it wants to go. And I suppose it is a way of connecting with your higher self. We are actually planning on doing a course with an organization in it's not set, not the date is not set in stone yet, but we are planning on doing a course with this particular organization where we're going to be, helping people to raise their level of consciousness, which is what I'm thinking that you're doing, and connecting with your higher, let's call it higher self. And that's going to be interesting. So let me know how the course goes. I'm not sure that, how long is the course? How long does it take to learn to do automatic writing? I'm not really sure, but let me know. Let's know more about it. Let me check it out for you.
All right. Eric says, "Good morning, Rosemary.
Good
Just
morning.
past the hottest part of the heat wave here in California.
All right.
And we do know across many parts of the United States, it's been really, really hot. And then the opposite side, it's been much less seasonably cold."
Right. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying California. You'll be pleased to know, Eric, my garden's looking amazing. Don't you think so, Chris? I just bought some more hydrangeas, and my gardenias are looking great. Everything's doing really well. As I've said, I've got an irrigation system put in, and yeah, I'm enjoying looking at the flowers. I've got a whole bunch of New Guinea impatiens, which I love. If you don't know what they are, they're sort of like a red leaf, and then they've got small, sort of about that size flowers all over them. And you can get the flowers in different colors. I've got sort of pale pinks. The thing I like about New Guinea impatiens is that, and this happened to me the other day, they let you know when they want water. And I had a huge pot of them, and they looked dead. They were so wizened up because somehow or another they had gotten put in a place where they were not getting water. And I brought them in, sort of closer in. I gave them a good dose of water, and these absolutely dead plants are now up and smiling and happy and flowering. And anyway, and they're very, very pretty, but they've got these really lovely dark greenish reddish leaves to them, which contrast with the flowers. Very pretty. Keep going, Chris.
Annika's saying, "Silly question, but I was wondering, do we sleep in the spirit world too?"
We rest, it's when we sleep here, when let's do this again. When we're on this physical plane, we certainly, and so many of us, we need to have 8 hours sleep. I actually am one of those people who needs very little sleep. But while we're sleeping, we're resting the physical body. We're giving the physical body time to sort of recover from the stresses and strains that we've put it through in the day. So we're giving that a rest. But at the same time as our physical body is resting, our spiritual body, our etheric body, is very often on the move and traveling and exploring and doing all, doing what it does. But we do need rest. I'm not sure that it's the same as sleep, but we do need rest, and we do need to sort of recover our energy. We need to do things that build our energy, that keep us going.
Lorraine says, Rosemary, regarding soul signs,
Yes.
I'm a combination of air and water,
No.
trying to nail down which one is dominant. I definitely know my sister is earth and husband is fire.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, if you tell me just a little bit about yourself, I'll help you out. I'm suspecting as I'm talking to you that I know already what you are. But give me a little bit more information. Just tell me, let me think. Um, are you that person who just lets go and just goes with the flow and, sort of is happy to go along with everyone? Um, to the point where sometimes you get a bit irritated because you feel as if you're always doing everything that everybody else wants you to do? Or are you the person who is same thing, that person who's happy to go along, who's happy to compromise, but you get to a point sometimes where, okay, I'm not, no, because I really want to do this, so I'm not compromising with this. But you're good at compromising when you need to. So I've given you those two questions. Come back at me and I'll tell you exactly then what I think you are. I think I already know anyway, but Chris, keep going.
Rhonda says, I was so fortunate when my children were young to be able to be home with them. I would take my children and their friends on hikes in the mountains and swimming in the streams. It was so much fun.
Oh, nice. So what lovely memories that you have then. I mean, when I think about my daughter, I was able to be home with her through the holidays, or if I was not able to be there with her, I was able to take her with me. And as I was often in a kitchen environment and cooking up a storm and doing those sorts of things, she could either, be with me, helping me, or she could be, reading, drawing, whatever it is. I'd put her into the restaurant and she'd sit there and do her thing, or we'd invite kids for her to play with. So I think I feel so sad for those mothers and fathers who have to work and work and work, and they don't get the same memories. And I think we don't realize at the time that what we're missing out on, but we don't get those same the same memories that we might have. And time goes by so quickly. My grandson is 3 days away from his, because he's got today, tomorrow and Monday. He's at school on Monday, if you can believe it. Why they didn't just give him a day off, it beats me. But anyway, and then he leaves third grade. And when he goes back to school in September, he's in fourth grade. It's like time goes fast, it goes by. We talked about time, didn't we, before? We talked about not wasting time, making the most of time. And summer's coming. So even if you're a person who works, it's not about the amount of time you spend together. It's about the quality of the time that you spend together. So even if you're a working mum or a working dad, and you're sort of missing out, you come home at some point, don't you, and you have dinner together and you have weekends or whatever it is, you have the time with your kids. Make sure that the time you have, even if it's not as much as you'd like, make sure that it's quality time. Get off your phones. Get off your computers. You see kids in the park, they're playing in the park, and you see the parents and often the nannies, and they're glued, and fathers too, they're glued to the phone, they're glued to Facebook, they're glued to whatever it is, Instagram, whatever it is that's going on. Get off your phones and get some one-on-one time with your kids while you can, because it goes, I'm speaking from experience, it goes really, really fast, really, really fast.
So Brian says he's right now in Harlow, Essex, England, and
Oh,
he is retiring to Thailand.
moving there permanently? Whoa, that's a big deal. Wow, Brian. Well, all right. Once you've settled in, we want invitations, don't we, Chris?
As long as it's not the hot, humid season.
Oh, I don't, Brian, hey, I'll come anytime. Don't worry about me. I'll figure it out. I remember my first experience in Singapore was, I mean, Singapore, you know, you have a shower, you get dressed, you sort of feel great. You go out and 5 minutes later, you need a shower, you need to change. But it's fantastic because the atmosphere is great and the people are great and the markets are great and there's so much color and so much buzz and so much to see and to do that, you know, we live with the uncomfortable stuff, don't we?
Mary says, my 13-year-old daughter is going to an amusement park. My two boys will give the YMCA, maybe go to the YMCA to swim today. We are hoping to go to the beach and camping sometime this summer. And we
Yeah.
sometimes play tennis and go bowling.
Well, this is good. It sounds to me as if you've got that real interaction going on with the kids, Mary, and I like that a lot because, as I've just said, time goes really fast, and you know when you, I'm going to sound like a very old woman now. I suppose I am a very old woman actually. I don't feel like a very old woman at all, but anyway, you know, sometimes when you look back, and sometimes I look back and I remember, you know, the funny things that happened, and sometimes the not so funny things that happened when Samantha was a little girl, and you know, and here I am now with a 9 year old grandson. I don't even know how I got to 9 years old. It went so fast. So treasure, please treasure the time that you have with them. Treasure the moments. Treasure, you know, treasure your treasures. That's what I'm going to say. Treasure the treasures.
Judith answered you back about the automatic writing. She says, we take meditation and listen to special music. I keep a notepad in my lap. I pray for protection. Yes, the pen just writes from higher awareness. I'm only just learning.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Interesting. Well, if it works for you, that's great. I'm going to suggest that if you'd like to do it, um, if you know, depending on how good you get, you might find that a planchette will be very helpful to you. I'm trying to think how you spell planchette here. PLANCHETTE, I think. Planchette, anyway. And it's a sort of roll. It's like the table is like on a, there's a ball at the bottom that fits in and the table rolls. And you might find that helpful. That's what I would suggest to my students if they wanted to do it and they wanted to do it. So once you become proficient at it, you know, you might find that a really helpful thing to do. I bet anything you like, you can get them on Amazon. I'm not sure that people use them anymore, but they are really, you know, good to use.
All right. Rhonda says, this summer I'm taking my adult children and mom to Oregon to
Oh, no,
enjoy time together and lots of seafood.
I've never been to Oregon, but I've heard it's amazing. I've heard it's fantastic, and maybe one day I'd like to go there too. You got any room in your suitcase for another little person? Keep
All
going.
right. Then Andrea says, hi, Rosemary. Andrea from Barnsley, UK.
Hi, Andrew from Barnsley.
So after we had our son nearly 22 years ago, since our meeting at Meadow Hall with you, after your visit, you kindly sent me 2 of your books. This inspired me to write. This begun when I was sat up in bed breastfeeding my son. I used to make notes of my thoughts, and my own novel is 3/4 finished, but I just
Oh,
can't seem to finish it 22 years later. How did you find the inspiration to finish your novels?
well, darling. I know who you are now. All right. So this this little baby is, I think, the baby that I think I saw him before you did. 22 years old. Wow. how did I write my book? Well, I think that, I remember once a long time ago, a few years ago, I had a lady. She was sort of more of an acquaintance than a friend, and at one point there was a little bit of jealousy there, because I suppose she saw me with, in her eyes, I had everything. Um, she had a husband, she had a daughter, she had a nice home, but for some reason she sort of had a little bit of a bitterness about her. But anyway, I remember her once saying to me, well, if I could, if all I had to do was write a book, and she made it sound like it was the simplest thing in the world, and it is not the simplest thing in the world to do, because I think what most people don't understand about writers and writing is you really, really have to be disciplined. You've got to discipline yourself to spend X amount of time. Now, when I'm actually in the throes of writing, in the midst of writing a book, what I'll do is I'll spend, I'll literally take the morning and I'll work through. And sometimes I'll start at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I forget to have lunch, because if I'm involved and working, but I've made the plan that the morning is going to be for my writing. And so, sometimes we sit there and people have what they call writer's block, and you sit there and you've spent this time and you've disciplined yourself to get this time, and then you can't think of anything, and then you sit there and then you think it's a waste of time, and then you give up. But don't give up. You've got to be a little bit more disciplined, young lady, and you can do it. I'm absolutely certain that you can do it. And now your baby is not a baby anymore. Now he's older, and you've got time, and you've got, you don't have to let this go. And when you sit there and you feel whether it is writer's block or whatever it is they call it, then doodle, or just sit there, think of ideas, think of things that you might want to put in the book that you never thought of before, and sort of get just get ideas going. Even if you can't get your writing going, get the ideas going if you can do that. It's not easy. Writing a book is not an easy thing to do, because the thing you have, and if you don't have it, you'll never do it. The thing to have, and that you must have, is discipline, discipline, discipline. You've got to discipline yourself to sit down at a certain time, whether it's twice a week, every day of the week, 2 hours a day, 5 hours a day, whatever it is. And you've got to put yourself in a place where you can't be disturbed. Put the phone away. What is this with people? The phone's ringing, I've got to answer the phone. I like to leave my phone behind sometimes if I'm going out. The only time I'll answer the phone is if I think it might be Reese or Samantha. I know. But other than that, anybody, they can wait. They can call back, or they'll leave a message and I'll call them back. So be disciplined. Put the toys away. Put the distractions away. Go sit in a room by yourself and just begin. Just begin.
All right, then Lorraine, who is coming back at us with the answer when we were talking about whether she's an air sign or a water sign, says, I do go with the flow, but not always, but I'm willing to compromise.
Water sign, water sign. Air signs, they'll go along and they'll go along, they'll go along, and they're great. They're wonderful. They'll just keep going along until all of a sudden they won't go along, then they blow like this. But it only lasts like seconds, and then they're back to going along and going along. If you are even thinking about the question that I asked you, and you had to think about it, didn't you? Then you're thinking as a water sign, and you are a compromiser. Now, if your husband is a fire sign, it can be a little tricky, can't it? I bet there are those times when you're so tempted as a water sign to just douse him, because fire and water, that fire does not survive water. But as a water sign and as a compromiser, you can compromise and you can work around this fire sign. So there are probably not that many times when you douse him, but if you douse him, boy, oh boy, he won't like it. And you might feel really guilty about doing it afterwards. Let me know what you think about what I've just said, you see. Think about this.
She said,
Chris.
she said, I will bark if I feel I'm being taken advantage of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. See? That when she says I will bark, what she means is I will douse that devil. If he pushes me too far, whoosh, over the water, out comes the water, and that poor fire sign is sort of, wondering what hit him. Nice.
Andrew's asking, are we still doing angel training? When I get it back from my friend Brian, I will restart.
Well, funnily enough, I asked Chris about that this morning. Do you want to say anything, Chris?
I said to you, I haven't done it since mid-May because my book is packed away.
But I would like to point out that she's been here for 2 weeks and there are plenty of books here. So, I'm not sure the argument washes really, Chris, but anyway.
I didn't realize we were arguing.
We're not, no, the argument of I've put my books away. Not that we are arguing. No, you can have an argument. Never mind. I'm not going there. You're taking what I'm saying literally instead of figuratively.
No, I was just being sarcastic.
I know. I'm having to put up with it. And of course, you could have also asked Karen, but obviously, because Karen was your partner doing this, and what happened to that?
We will have to have that discussion.
Yeah, getting back to soul signs just for a minute. Don't you love it when we start talking about how, what soul signs people are and how, for instance, how that little water sign can douse that fire. Fire glows. It sort of shines. It's, look at me. You're on stage. You've sort of got a very positive personality. Don't you love it that this more quiet, seemingly more centered, sort of little being can, with one word, put the waterfall over the fire sign and is done. I want to know what you think about that young lady, the lady who's asking all of this, because I'm pretty sure that that's what happens from time to time. That doesn't mean that you're incompatible. It just means that you know when to and how to calm him down and how to shut him up too. Chris, keep going.
Well, Lorraine had answered. She says it's very tricky, for sure. And yes, thank you so much.
Nice.
Judith says I am procrastinating on filling out my portion of my trust/will. I know how important it is, yet I have never put something off like this. I'm wondering what is going on with me. Any encouragement?
I would think that your reluctance is because you're uncertain as to what you're uncertain about what you're doing or what you're thinking of doing. I think you need to perhaps, sorry to say this to you, but I think you need to sit down quietly and revisit some of the things that you're thinking of writing down in the will. Remember, if you live longer, you can change it as you go along. But if you write the will and then, the truck comes and smacks you the next day, you're done. You can't change your mind. So writing a will, making out a will is a very important thing to think about. And if you're hesitant about it, it's because you're not sure that you're making the right choices or you're making the right decisions. I think when we're making a will, I think there are lots of things that we do have to consider. The first thing we have to consider is if you're going to leave someone out, for instance, and it might be a difficult decision, or you might be leaving them out because you're peeved with them, or you're angry with them, or you feel that they've not given you whatever it is that you want from them, be very careful to make those kinds of decisions, because it can cause all sorts of problems and all sorts of issues for the family once you're gone, for them to have to deal with what it is that you've done. Now, if you've got good reasons and valid reasons why you should cut one person out of the will and bring somebody else into the will, and if those reasons are valid and they're sound and you feel comfortable with them, you won't have hesitation. You'll just get on with it and you'll do it. The hesitation, I think, tells me that you're not quite sure about one or maybe even two or three things in the will that you've decided on, but are you doing the right thing? So my advice to you is take a breath, sit back, and begin again. Start, why are you leaving this to this person? Why are you leaving that to that person? So many people make wills. So many people do this because sometimes it's a form of payback. Sometimes it's a form of I'll show you. Sometimes it's simply a case of I haven't seen them. Why should I? They've not been in my life, so I'm not going to act as if they have been in my life. Sometimes there are really good reasons for leaving someone out of the will. Sometimes there are really poor reasons for leaving someone out of the will. Just make sure that the reasons that you write a will and that you leave things to people is because you want to do it. You shouldn't be feeling guilty about anything, and just feel comfortable and right with what you're doing.
Pamela says, hello, Rosemary and Grey
Hi.
Eagle. I have been reading Soul Signs. I love the book.
Aha.
I relate to the fire sign. I
Okay.
also relate to the retrospective and dreamer. Can you be both? I need some wise insight.
Okay. Well, both fire signs, obviously. Well, not so obvious to people who don't know what we're talking about, but yes, both fire signs. Here's the thing that there are within each soul group, and first find your group, which is, I think you've obviously done that. That's the golden key. First find your group, and within each group there are three choices. One of those choices you will immediately dismiss. No, that's not me. The other two you can go back and forth, because obviously you have you're a fire sign. So with all three choices, there are so many similarities. So what you need to do is you need to sit quietly with these two things, go through them, and mark off the traits that apply to you. Now, you might find 5 out of 6 traits of the dreaming soul apply to you, and you might find that 4 out of 6 traits apply to you with the retrospective. There's only one trait difference, but that tells you're leaning more towards the dreaming soul than you are towards the retrospective, and vice versa. So just total it up, add it up. Which are you most? But obviously, as a fire sign, you have all of the traits in it to some degree or another, lesser or more so. You have all the traits of all of the 3 fire signs, but some more than others. So which are you most? And I did this for a friend of mine fairly recently. We sat down, and she knew that she was an earth sign, but she couldn't make up her mind whether she was a warrior soul or whether she was a visionary soul. And so I sat down with her and we went through the list, and okay, we ticked off 8 of those and 6 of those, and that's how you decide which are you more, because you are, as a fire sign, you have all of those traits. So I hope that helps you to figure it out. I have a suspicion that yes, well, I have my suspicions, but anyway, you figure it out. I never like to tell people. I like to help people to work it out for themselves, but I think it's much more it resonates with you when it resonates with you. And if I tell you, then it's not you figuring it out, is it?
All right. Dean says, I just read a book called Messages from Beyond the Veil that does not sit right with my intuition. It
Okay.
is messages from a group of people from the spirit world who sound very constricted and a bit petty. They also say that God does not know evil because he is beyond that. None of this sounds right to my intuition. What do you think?
I think, Dean, follow your intuition. Absolutely follow your intuition. And when you start to listen to the pettinesses, no, no, no. So I don't know who wrote this book. I've never read this book myself. But if it doesn't sit right with you, then discard it. There might be, you might, in any book that you read, whether you agree with the main principles or not, there might be something in there. You might have read it for a reason. There might be something in there that resonated or helps you, or sort of you might sort of think, oh, maybe I'll think on that little bit. But if it doesn't sit right, don't throw it away.
All right. Eric says, oh my gosh, I'm just like that water sign. Easy going, takes a lot to lose my temper, but when I do, thankfully this is rare, the jungle gets quiet, just like in the movies. Everybody watches out when that happens.
Well, and then the floods come, right? Then the dam breaks. That's what it is. It's all about water and the force of water and the power of the water that drives you. That energy that drives you. And I would imagine that the forest might go silent. It's called, actually, this is what it's called, Eric. It's called the calm before the storm. And then the storm breaks and the dam breaks, and whoosh, water comes tumbling down.
Twiggy Leaf says, hi, Rosemary. You were in
I,
my dream last night.
oh, really?
I need to move a foot on our next meeting. I will be reaching out to Chris today to begin setting it up. Lots of love and hope you're well.
Well, we're dying to have our next meeting, Twiggy Leaf, and if you're in charge, get on with it then, why don't you?
Sunshine Moon says, I just watched the Westminster Dog Show. Do those dogs understand what they have won? Or are they proud too?
Well, I think it's about the dog and the owner. I don't think the dog could care less about the rosettes and the cups and the all this, that, and the other. I think it's the relationship between the animal and its owner, which it and obviously if the owner, you know, we're such material beings, aren't we? We human beings, we love to. I'm sure that people have got rosettes up all over the room, and the cups are on the mantelpiece, and all of that. If the owners are pleased, the dogs are going to know that. They're going to be excited about that, and so it's about communication between the dog and the owner. Chris.
So, Rosemary, we do not have any more comments or questions in the
Oh, that's
chat
it.
room.
Okay. Wow. What are we going to talk about then, Chris? Shall we leave? Shall we go? Shall we end it then? What should we do?
Well, typically when I make that comment, I get a sudden flurry of the last minute comments or questions. So we can wait a minute to see if people want to say something. But what are you looking forward to the most this summer?
Well, at some point, I'm going to go to New York and have some time with my grandson. Um, we're going to be playing the piano quite a bit. And, I like to think, of course, I'm the proud grandmother. I think I talked about this the other day. My grandson took his uh, fourth grade exam, piano exam, not school exam, piano exam, and he got top marks. He got the highest scores. He was, sort of the number one, he was thrilled to bits. They did afterwards. All the students, they did a concert for their parents, and and he got received accolades for his achievements. And the thing I liked about it was that he chose, because he could choose his music from different pieces that his teacher gave to him, and he chose to play jazz. And honestly, it was, if you'd have been sitting in a bar having a nice drink, and you got the piano in the background, it was like being in a piano bar listening. Don't you agree, Chris? It was like sitting in a piano bar and listening to that fantastic jazz playing. He did so well. But now he's got a new piece, because he's now working towards his fifth grade exam, and he's got a new piece, and it's Beethoven, and Beethoven is one of my favorites. As is, Reese and I, we call it Beethoven. We call him Beethoven, and we call it Chopin. So we're going to be playing Beethoven and Chopin through the summer. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to playing with him. I'm looking forward to taking him out for ice creams and all that kind of thing. And I'm looking forward to cooking with him too.
Michaela says, Rosemary, I am poorly, but will our spirit know that we are poorly?
Well, yes, of course, because it's your energy. Your energy is depleted, and of course, your spirit. It's you. You are your spirit. Everything that happens to you affects your energy, affects your spiritual growth, your spiritual being. And I'm sure that well, aside from anything else, uh, what's wrong with you? You can tell us or not, but we certainly, if we may, put you in our healing book, and we shall send you healing. And we shall send healing to your soul first and foremost, above and beyond everything else. And we'll try to build up the energy of your soul and the energy of your being. But please, I hope you get better.
Brian's asking, why could I see spirit as a child, but not now, and I am 61?
Oh, well, that's the big question, isn't it? Well, let me think now. Cell phones, uh, TV, work, distractions, 1,000 different distractions that we have as we get older. And as children, we don't have those distractions, but also we're much more in tune, we're much more sensitive, we're much more fine-tuned to that, without even having to try to connect with the spirit world. We are part of it. They are part of us. Children understand that, but as we get older and things get busier for us, or we get more distractions and so on and so forth, we lose the ability. But as we get older, and if you're 61 years old, I don't know if you're retired yet or not, but as you get older and things start to calm down a little bit, maybe you can start to look a little bit more, to be aware a little bit more, to be more in tune. Maybe you're a perfect uh, person to join in our webinars, because as I've said, we will be doing a webinar talking about how to attain a sense of higher self. How do we raise our level of consciousness? How do we listen to the heartbeat of our soul? Wait a minute, does the soul have a heartbeat? Yes, it does. How do we do all of that? How can we do all of that? And part of our webinars that we do are helping people to understand not only that we can do it, but giving pointers as to how we can do it. So watch for those things. Keep checking the website.
Lorraine says, well, I am so happy you helped me nail down my sign. And my husband can be a challenge. He is also a Gemini, 2 people. I'm a Libra. Balance the scales. Any comment?
Well, it sounds to me as if you've got a really good thing going there, because I think that yes, it can be a challenge, but I think you're up to the challenge, because water signs, oh, they are the great compromisers of our human race. And we can all compromise, but water signs really know how to do it in a way that is palatable to other people. and in a way that people accept. So it sounds to me, although your husband might get doused from time to time and maybe not like it, it sounds to me as if you've got a really workable relationship and a good relationship there, compatibility, I think, really good compatibility. So good for you.
Sandra says, my husband and I had our 37th anniversary
Wow.
yesterday.
Wow.
I'm a fire and he's a water, and you described us perfectly. Our first 10 years of marriage were really hard, but when our son transitioned, we really came together and supported each other. We have a great marriage.
I love that. I love that. Did you say Sandra, Chris? I love
Yes.
that. I love that, Sandra. I've seen it happen so many times. Let me just first say, and many of you have heard me say this before, the loss of a child, certainly for me, has to be the worst kind of loss. I know people think, well, I lost my mother, I lost my father, and you had a good relationship with them. But the loss of a child, I think, has to be the most difficult. And uh, two things can happen when you lose a child. You either become much closer to your partner and you support each other, and the bond between you becomes stronger, or you just can't deal with it, and each one reminds the other of what has happened, and eventually, there's this split, there's this, coming apart of a relationship. I have very, very good friends who were strangely thinking seriously of splitting up, um, because they just were not getting on. They didn't much care for each other, for one reason or another, and they had the marriage wasn't in great shape. Uh, then they lost their son very, very tragically. And if you were a betting person, you'd say, okay, well, that's definitely done it. They've, they're gonna, that's it. But actually, what happened was they came together in their grief. They came together in their fight to do something about the way that their son had died, and they became the closest couple, the really, really the perfect closest couple. And I know that losing a child has to be the very worst. So my heart goes out to you, and I am thrilled to bits that you have each other, you support each other, you care about each other, even though I know you still douse him from time to time, and even though I suspect that, boy, sometimes you just wish, maybe just go somewhere else and do that. A bit too much for me. But even though you have those, little things that are not necessarily quite so compatible, I think it's wonderful that you have fought to retain your relationship, and that and it's worth it, isn't it? And you support each other. And when you lose a child, I think it's so important that you have support when you need it, and because the pain never goes away, no matter how many years later it is. Uh, all these nice-minded people, these people who want to make you feel better about things, and they say to you, "Give it time, and you'll get over it." No, you don't. No amount of time will uh, get you over it, but you will learn to live with it. And it seems to me that you've got a fantastic partner, and I'm thrilled for that.
All right. We're right at time. So, one last question/comment.
Okay.
Annika says, sometimes I wish I could remember what it was like in the spirit world before I entered my mother's womb. I think it might be a good subject for a next show.
Oh yes. Well, Annika, you've given me something to think about it. And Chris will be on it. Because I know, Chris, you think this is a great idea, don't you? You think, can we do it? Would we be able to do it? Is it possible to know these things? Uh, we'll think about it. Thank you for the suggestion. All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. Once again, it's gone really, really fast. Um, I really appreciate you joining. I really appreciate your comments, your questions, and I love the fun that we have. We will be back on Saturday morning with story time. Once again, I will have another story for you. Now, some of you have asked for personal stories. Some of you have asked for romantic stories. Some of you want to know more about my own personal life. So there might be a story on Saturday concerning that. We shall see. We shall absolutely see what I'm thinking. I probably won't know myself until we come on Saturday morning, and I'll say, okay, I'll tell that story then. So until I see you again, we may or may not be doing an off the cuff. I don't know what Chris has got planned. We are definitely around. We are talking to someone who wants to be a bottom bricker. If you want to be a bottom bricker, if you want to join our club of bottom brickers, by all means. And we're going to be arranging, hopefully, I'm hoping, keeping my fingers crossed, that Michael will come back in July and tell us how he is faring since his bottom brick exercise. So keep looking at the website, rosemaryaltea.com. Keep checking in with us. If you want to suggest a subject, or if you have a question, email Chris, Kris, at rosemaryaltea.com, or if you forget, just simply Rosemary at rosemaryaltea.com, because Chris will answer it anyway. It'll get to her one way or the other. So until I see you all again, until we're back here doing this again, please, everybody, thank you so much again for joining us. I'd like to say thank you to Chris and, of course, to Grey Eagle, as always. And it's tickling my ear. And please have a very, very blessed rest of the day, everybody, and have a very blessed weekend. Bye-bye.